How many radical Democrats does it take to change the Spanish constitution? A political party fed up with their country's dominant politicians and bankers calls itself We Can Podemos. It formed just in time for the European elections in May, then won 1.25 million votes, 5 seats in the European Parliament. And support keeps growing, demanding changes in their country's political structuring and representation. Podemos doesn't have a firm position on whether Spain might consider converting to a republic from a monarchy, but its voters definitely want reforms. They're basically chanting, "Yes, we can."
So far, I haven't felt particularly represented by the monarchy since I didn't elect any of them. I prefer to choose the state I want.
The thing is, the monarchy is enshrined in the Constitution. To change that would need a 2/3 majority in the Congress and the Senate. Even with the abdication of King Juan Carlos enlivening the head of state debate, Spain is far from fulfilling the conditions for dissolving Parliament and redrafting the National Charter. Last week, Congress overwhelmingly supported Juan Carlos, handing over to his son Felipe the non-executive role of head of state, almost exclusively ceremonial. The founder of Podemos, Pablo Iglesias, insists there are more important matters. He says this isn't a debate on the form of the state, it's about whether the Spaniards are mature enough and have the right to decide, or have to go on being talked down to by party elites more concerned with booking tables in restaurants than consulting the people. Spain's conservative politicians and the majority of socialists simply feel that the institution of the monarchy has served the Spanish people well. There was a broad consensus in making the 1978 constitution, which has allowed us to enjoy the best period of freedom, peace and prosperity in the history of Spain. That consensus guaranteed us unprecedented political stability in a country accustomed to hugely unstable transitions of political power from one regime to another. A country needs consensus. The form of state can't change just because 50% of the people want to change it. To change the form of the state requires a socially structured, overwhelming majority in the country in favor of a different idea. You don't have that in Spain. In the Madrid neighborhood of Vallecas, we see an awful lot of flags from the 1931 to 39 Second Republic. A local club has organized a Republican paella. Former socialist MP José Antonio Pérez Tapias has come along. People like him believe a Spanish republic is possible again. The Republican identity in the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party is still very strong. In the debate after the king's abdication, I believe that we need to assert this Republican identity with determination. It opens the way for a referendum on whether to have a monarchy or a republic. It's true that this has to follow a constitutional process, and therefore a full debate, both a public consultation on the question and in Parliament. The Second Spanish Republic brought social reforms following elections in which anti-monarchist candidates won the majority of votes. The king went into exile. Then nationalist forces under General Franco defeated Republican forces in a civil war, which led to 4 decades of dictatorship. Franco kept that king in exile, but eventually took his son under his wing. Historian Juan Pablo Fusi considers the pros and cons of the Second Republic. Of the great reforms of the Republic, the very good ones, I think, were granting autonomy for Catalonia, land reform and military reform. The biggest mistake, perhaps, paradoxically, as we see it today, was secular policy, which obviously went against all of Catholic Spain, who were the majority. I think the biggest problem for the Democrats in 1931 was the monarchy. And yet the solution for that same democracy in 1975-78 was the monarchy. According to surveys published in Spanish media, more than 60% of the population today believe that sooner or later a referendum should be held on the modern head of state question. On the other hand, more than 70% come out saying they believe that Felipe VI will be a good king. That's a far cry from the standard chant, España mañana será republicana, that ushered a king out the last time. It means Spain tomorrow will be republican. But it's clear that a continuation of a constitutional parliamentary monarchy hasn't been ruled out yet. Groups linked to the 15M movement are campaigning informally to have an official referendum held. That's the movement that started in 2011, demanding radical changes in Spanish politics. The economy had gone into meltdown, but it was before the worst corruption and embarrassments had tarred the royal family.
The abdication of Juan Carlos has improved the monarchy's prospects. Some surveys give it a 20-point lead over the idea of a republic, 55% to 35%. But the debate, as we've seen, seems to lie elsewhere. It's about the power of the ballot box to decide what sort of a state people want.